In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins, and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. It can help us to view our life as an adventure, an epic adventure, heading towards a goal that is worth everything, and at the same time an adventure filled with challenges. The Lord sent his apostles out on mission, giving them very careful instructions, precisely so that they would be well prepared to handle the difficulties they would inevitably face. How important it is for each one of us to be ready to handle the challenges that will come our way, and to do so in an eminently Christian way. More specifically, we need to integrate our intellect, our will, and our heart in such a way that we not only see the goal, but that we desire it intensely. And furthermore, that we learn how to put our whole heart and soul into the daily effort to get there. This is something we have to work at very consciously. It is not automatic. And so as we begin this time of prayer, well, let us ask Jesus for the desire for continual conversion, resisting complacency. 1,000 years ago, St. Bernard wrote, "Whoever does not aspire to be better does not deserve the name good." The moment a person no longer desires to be better, that person stops being good. What are the players, so to speak? The players are our intellect, our will, and our heart. And all three need to be formed in order for us to truly flourish. In the first place, our intellect. St. Paul urged the Ephesians to attain to the unity of the faith and of the deep knowledge of the Son of God, to perfect adulthood, to the mature measure of the fullness of Christ, that we may now no longer be children, tossed to and fro and carried about by every wind of doctrine. St. Paul's words are a call to form the intellect, to attain that mature measure of the fullness of Christ, to see with greater and greater clarity what is the goal and how to get there. Why are we here on this earth? The more we know about the purpose of life, the more we learn about the ingredients of a life well lived, the more focused we can be in pursuing that style of life. And that is why this ongoing formation of our intellect is so important, including the cultural formation that helps us to become experts in humanity. Take, for example, the lack of culture afflicting the younger generations. And why? Because of those hours spent on screens, instead of reading truly important works of literature, of history, biographies. All those hours have taken their toll. A commentator recently bemoaned what the kids lost when they did not learn about Odysseus and the sirens, about Richard III's maniacal eloquence, and Anna Karenina's errant love. All those things are what no young person should go without. Those stories and characters would have become for millennials and younger ones equipment for living, for handling the trials of adulthood, stretching the horizons of their experience and giving them better role models. It's a very eloquent commentary that shows us the importance of studying the ultimate human experiences in order to learn what it means to be fully human. In terms of the faith, it makes no sense whatsoever to be content with an 8th grader's knowledge of the teachings of the Church. Far too many people blithely write off millennia of wisdom, saying that I just don't accept that. Recently, a well-known Toronto-based clinical psychologist pointed out how illogical that position is. And the way he put it, more or less, was, okay, fine. You say you don't accept that which very, very many extremely intelligent people down through the centuries have believed. Things that they have explained, delved into deeply, you don't accept them. And furthermore, you don't accept that which the tradition of centuries, has passed down to us. So in essence, what you're doing is placing yourself above this incredible multitude of wisdom, of very wise people. Well, that really does not make much sense, to say the least. We can't do that. Rather, we have to be powered by this desire to delve into that which really smart people have seen and gone to great lengths to explain. And so let us renew our determination to feed our interior life with study. A very concrete way of doing this is to take very seriously those 10 or 12 minutes a day of spiritual reading that many of us already do. There are who knows how many great books of spiritual literature, the great saints. To the extent that we delve into those works, study them, take good notes, those insights will become part of our own vision of things, and we will acquire a greater and greater understanding of what life really and truly is all about. Along the same lines, it's so important for us to get to know the history of the Church, to find out what really happened, to dig beneath the so-called black legends, of which there are many, in such a way that when people say to us, well, you have the Crusades, you have the case of Galileo, we can come back to them and say, well, let's take a look at that, because it's a lot more nuanced than you think, than what you have learned in school. The first player then is the intellect. The second player, if we can use that term, is the will. After all, it's not enough for us to know about our destination. We have to seriously want to get there, and that requires mental toughness. That strength of will to follow through with our resolutions, to get out of bed in the morning, to acquire that self-dominion that is so necessary to stick to our schedule. There is a real challenge to this mental toughness that is relatively new. We can go back to someone who was mentioned a few minutes ago, to Odysseus and the Sirens. That episode in Greek mythology can help us confront this new menace to our journey. You will recall from your high school reading of Greek mythology that Odysseus, who was the king of Ithaca, had been away from home for 10 years, then tack on to that another 10 years, so he is understandably desperate to get back to Ithaca, to get back to his Penelope. The problem is that Odysseus had to get past a number of different challenges, including the sirens. The sirens were these mythical creatures whose song was absolutely irresistible. So sailors who went past the sirens were drawn to them, ended up on the rocks, ended up being the ship destroyed and they being killed. Odysseus, knowing that he had to get somehow past them, said to his sailors, "Bind me to the mast and tie me so tight that I can't move." Then as they got closer and closer to the sirens, Odysseus said to the sailors, "Put wax in your ears so you cannot hear a thing." Then when they got to the sirens, Odysseus started struggling against those bonds. He was desperate to get free. And he cried out at the top of his voice, "Let me go," because he could not resist the song of the sirens. But of course the sailors could not hear a thing. They couldn't hear Odysseus, nor could they hear the sirens. And so the ship sailed past that huge danger to safety. Well, this has everything to do with our current situation. Who is calling out to us these days? The sirens in the guise of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Netflix series. And each one of those is crying out to us day after day, "Come, come." So many people end up on the rocks. They say to themselves, "Well, let me just take one quick peek at one very brief YouTube video. Let me finish that Netflix series, that one episode. And while I'm at it, let me just have one potato chip." And of course, 2 hours later, they have gone through a bag of potato chips. They have wasted 2 hours, and they have nothing to show for it. And then, of course, if this happens in the evening, they also get to bed late, and the next day is on the rocks. Someone recently quipped, "Never has it been easier to pick up your phone in order to text a friend, only to fall into a mindless internet black hole." It's really true. And so here during our time of prayer, we can make this resolution: mental toughness. This is it. This is war. I refuse to give in to those sirens. Well, then comes the heart, the third player we can mention, third player that is crucial to bring into line with our intellect and our will so that the three can work in sync. St. Josemaria he says it perfectly in this point from the Way. "You tell me, yes, that you want to. Very good. But do you want to as a miser longs for gold? As a mother loves her child, as a worldling craves honors? Or as a wretched sensualist seeks his pleasure? No? Well, then you don't want to." It is a call to put our whole heart and soul into what we see must be done, that which we want to do. A great case in point is Simon Peter. Not only did he grasp the importance of following Jesus, not only did he desire to follow the Lord, but as St. Augustine said 4 centuries later, Peter did so vehemently. Vehemently is a very strong word. He loved him vehemently, which means he could not do anything else except follow the Lord with his entire heart. Dietrich von Hildebrand at one point talks about the importance of forming our intellect, our will, and our heart in such a way that there is a real equilibrium. And he says, they should cooperate, but each one must respect the specific role and domain of the other. The intellect or will should not try to supply only that which the heart can give, nor should the heart arrogate the role of the intellect or the will. If, for example, a man who wants to ascertain a fact does not consult his intellect, but instead claims that his heart tells him what the fact is, he has opened the door to all kinds of illusions. He has pressed his service into a service that it can never effectively render. He has pressed his heart into a service that it can never effectively render. He has allowed its improper use to stifle his intellect. Well, we could summarize all of that by just two words: an emotional mess. When someone just lets his heart become unbridled. We need heart, but we need the will, and we need the intellect. As was mentioned at the outset, life is a journey filled with challenges. Well, let us zero in on two current attitudes that can easily lead to shipwreck. The first one is FOBO, F-O-B-O, which stands for fear of better options. Someone coined this term not that many years ago. Someone who was looking around at his fellow students, graduate school, and he realized every single one of them is constantly optimizing. They're constantly judging which one optimizes my experience. And the problem with that attitude, of course, is once you make a commitment, you've given up all the other options. But they don't want to do that, so they keep all their options open and never end up committing to anything. Case in point, very simple one, someone might invite you to lunch this coming Friday. I said, great. But then at 11 a.m. you get a text message saying, sorry, I can't make it. And what does that mean? Well, chances are it means that that person either found someone else that he or she would prefer to have lunch with, or someone who is going to pay the bill, whatever. A far more important example, people who will say they have been going out with or even living with someone for 10 years, but they're still not sure. They're still not sure if they should make a permanent commitment, which makes you want to throw up your hands and say, come on. Stop optimizing. Stop having this fear of better options. Commit. There is a related virus, which is a misguided notion of happiness, one that is radically self-centered. Recently, a very insightful woman wrote the following. She had been speaking with a number of young women, university students, at a really good Catholic university from good families, who, as this observer said, these are women who have been well-formed in dating, marriage, the virtue of holy purity, etc. But she was bewildered by the fact that practically every single one, when asked the question, what are you looking for in a future spouse? Practically every single one said, I'm looking for someone who will support me emotionally in whatever I want. At the outset, you could say, well, okay, fine. But if you think about it, this whatever I want is just way too self-centered. The observer, who's been married now for 50 years, She goes on to say that what she had been expecting them to say was, I'm looking for fidelity, trustworthiness, being committed to his God and family. We have to be aware that this is out there. This notion of happiness being whatever I want support. Well, we can go the opposite direction. We can get the antidote to that from St. John Paul II. Right at the very beginning of his pontificate, he said the following: to love is, in its essence, to give oneself to others. Far from being an instinctive inclination, love is a conscious decision of the will to draw close to other people. To be able to love truly, it is important to be detached from everything, especially from self. It is important to give gratuitously. And this detachment from self is the source of a balanced personality. It is the secret of happiness. Well, we ask this great saint. He's the one who coined the term to become experts in humanity. We ask you, St. John Paul II, to help us to learn how to give of ourselves gratuitously, how to make of ourselves a sincere gift. Well, let us finish by turning to Our Lady, Star of the Sea. Here we are speaking to her Son about this journey of ours, about our desire to get past the sirens, to focus on where it is we want to go, that goal that we want with all our heart. My mother, our mother, spur us on to seek consciously every single day conversion, so that we not only see the goal with greater clarity, but that we come to desire it each day more with all our hearts. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. God bless you.